Welcome back, everybody, to the Crafted Edge podcast. I'm one of the co-hosts, J.W. Terrio. I'm here along with Mr. Jason Tippy and Mr. Don Watson. How y'all doing, fellas?
Doing good, man.
Here.
How you doing?
Doing good, buddy.
That's awesome, man. So, man, what's been going on, guys? It's been a while since we've been able to make an episode here, but we had a quite interesting little time that we had.
Yeah, we have.
Pretty much all Joey's fault.
I think Jason's frozen right now, but maybe he'll unfreeze and he'll come in and chime in.
All right.
Yeah, I know Jason had some sickness going on in this past couple of weeks, and Brother Don was doing some ministry work with his church, some outreach stuff, and of course, I've just been down and out. I ended up getting piece of metal stuck in my eye, so that wasn't pleasant. Had to go to the ER and have it extracted. So, but
it never is.
That's the real thing. What I had planned on telling everyone was that Tippy just locked himself in the shop and wouldn't come out, and so we were
That would be nice, wouldn't it? I actually have stuff to do, sell. Make a living off of. So
I know, man. So
no, that was not the case. I had the flu for 2 weeks. I got healed up enough to go to Belleville for the Texas Select show, and then that was a Saturday and Sunday show. I woke up Monday morning at 1:30 at my brother's house in College Station, sick as a dog, and actually had to stay there an extra day because I couldn't drive home. I was that sick. It was bad.
That's right. You went, you went to that Belleville show. How was that show?
Yeah. Oh, it was great. It was great. Met a lot of new people. Made some connections I'd already made, but made them stronger. Talked with our friend Chris over at Steel Dog Knives, and got to have a great chat with him. And it was just a bunch of good makers there. And of course, you get to see some of these old Louisiana boys. And I don't know if some of y'all have ever heard of Mr. J.W. Randall. He was there.
Yep.
And he, superb guy. He just good people. Him and his wife both. I got me a new hat. JQ Knives, Mr. Davey Wilson.
Davey.
Got to meet him, and we talk about just some cool people. It was really just a good show. I embarrassed myself in front of Dave Baker.
Oh,
so that's always good. I was, how when you're getting ready or you're going to a show, just kind of everything's a blur and you're just going. And so it was Saturday morning before the show opened. Got there and got everything set up, and I was just wandering around because I wanted to see, how people were better than me at making knives, and I'm outside, because they've got 70, 80 tables inside, and then they got a bunch of them outside too. And I'm walking around, looking around, and I'm looking at the table. I'm not looking at anybody else. And I hear, "Well, good morning," and I look up. And it was Dave Baker. I said, "Oh crap, you're Dave Baker." And
oh man,
he said, "Where is he? Where is he?" I was like, "Right, I'm sorry. I was in my own world. I did."
That's awesome.
So yeah, that's my claim to fame now. It's that I didn't realize where I was. So it was a good time.
That's awesome.
We had a good show. Got to meet some great people. It was just, and of course, Cowboy and Elena, they're amazing, and put on a great show, and just it was fun. I really enjoyed it. So
good deal.
I didn't like getting sick afterward, but enjoyed that.
Well, I'm glad you're feeling better. I'm glad everything's good. You've been in the shop, been working, making a few things.
I have. We've been working on some production stuff, and then of course some upcoming projects that we're doing. And trying to get some folders done. And I had probably 6 knives that didn't make it to Belleville because of all the sickness before. So I'm going to try to get them caught up and try to figure out what I'm gonna do with that stupid buoy I made. If I never
Man,
make anything over,
yeah,
6-inch blade again, it'll be too soon because that thing's
that
two and a
blade came
half
out
inches.
awesome, man.
Bro, it's
Came out
10
good.
inches long and 2.5 inches tall, and I put that's big anymore. I don't want to make anything.
Pretty blade.
I'm gonna
That's a
make
big blade,
everything
yeah.
with like a 2-inch blade from now on. That's all I'm doing.
There you go.
Me and Don have a name for that style of knife, but
That's right.
yeah,
we do.
Is it
well, that's
something
awesome,
that you
dude.
can
I'm
mention
glad.
on the podcast?
I'm glad you're doing better.
Yes, sir.
I'm glad you're back in the shop, Don.
How about you?
How about you,
go
brother?
ahead.
Oh man, we've been out in the shop. Been working around the house, getting warm down here. So working on the pool, man. Getting that old pool back. And
Getting about that
grandkids,
time.
man, my grandkids, every time they come over, they look out there in the pool and they go, Papa, can we swim? I said, well, it's 66 degrees. That's kind of cool, son. I said, no, we get it all cleaned up. Probably next month they'll be able to jump in. It'll be about 75, 77, something like that. So
It's been
they'll be
85,
ready to go.
86 down here. It's stupid.
Yeah.
We had a couple of cool mornings, and then we had a little cold spell come through, and then we had a couple cool mornings, and now it's
over.
Typical Louisiana weather. Back in the high 80s, so you've been in the shop, Don?
We've been doing some knives. I worked on a couple of them, got some finished up, building some Kydex sheaths, trying to get that done. I got a buddy of mine that's going to be coming to get his knife maybe next month. So the Kydex sheath, I got to build for it. It's got a lot of, you got to do build outs on it. Anybody makes Kydex sheaths, they know when you have a blade like this right here, you got to build outs in here, and up here. That way you can slide in, it don't stop it. If y'all know what I'm talking about. So
I follow you.
You build out to come out to about right here, to about to here. That way when you go into the sheath, if you don't, this will close up. You won't be able to get this part in. So that's Kydex, man. It's not nothing like leather, but it's still an art form, It's still aggravating.
It is.
It can be aggravating, I don't know. I know listeners out here. I know a lot of listeners out there was listening to me, and a lot of them build a lot of Kydex. So a lot of them do leather too. But we're down here in Florida. The reason I started doing Kydex is because I got a lot of guys that go out there on the bay, and leather just don't work for them. I mean, you can use leather, but it gets wet. It gets, and Kydex is just so you can rinse Kydex out, and get all the water out of it and let it. But that's what I've been doing, brother.
Yeah, unfortunately with leather, you can only seal it up, so much, but it's gonna wick stuff up, as it wears and moves, and it stretches, it opens up, the grain fibers open up, takes in moisture. But no, that's awesome, man. So how'd everything with the church go? Everything?
Oh man, we had a big revival. Everything went real well, man. We're seeing a lot of people come to Christ, so it was great, man.
Awesome.
It was a good time. It was a real good time. Learned a lot. So
Here you go.
Yes, sir.
Well, now that I got the metal out my eye, I've been back at it.
I'm glad you're back, brother.
Appreciate it, man.
And you was wearing safety glasses too.
You do.
So
you do dang near anything get attention, won't you?
Man, that's the attention you don't want.
I tell you, I learned. Yeah, no kidding. I tell you, I learned. Right away that I went ahead and purchased a full face respirator. And I did have my safety glasses on, and I also had some magnifiers on. And somehow or another, it just, worked its way in there. But now I'm doing good. Been back in the shop just recently, finished up 3 knives. So
they're looking
pretty. I appreciate it.
So I'd say PPE is pretty important in the knife shop, right?
Absolutely. And that's something we'll talk about on another episode. But I think tonight we're going to touch up a little bit on knife design.
Ooh, that's your ballpark, buddy. Yeah.
Well, I like sitting down and designing a lot of attributes that I like personally in a knife. But so we'll start with Tip and just kind of pick Tip's brain as
Oh dear
to
God.
what
I don't know
what
if that's a good idea.
so what attributes when it comes to design that you typically like to implement in your work?
Well,
And that
our philosophy is form follows function, but we really still like form. That's been something that we've just embraced since the beginning. And so if it's not usable, what's the point? I mean, really,
Yep.
that's my thoughts on it.
Yep.
Now I've made some stuff that was not usable. So, before I get crucified for saying that it can't be pretty or anything like that, that's not the case. We want things to look good, absolutely, but if it's not a functional for what the job is. And I think that's one of the biggest things about knife design for me is that it is built to do and perform that job.
Yep.
Now that
Exactly.
job may be an EDC, something
Yep.
that I can use in multiple ways or whatever, or it may just be like for example, our Skinner model. I wouldn't carry that every day. Just wouldn't,
right.
because it's not what it's built for. It's built for skinning, a medium to a large size animal. That's it. That's its design. I wouldn't use a hatchet, to take out splinter.
Exactly.
Now it can be, I mean, you know, necessity is the mother of invention, but it's that's my driving goal. Is to build the knife that fits the function. And then after that, we start getting into making it look good.
Yeah.
If that
Well,
makes sense.
I think we see that, I know I do in your
Mhm.
work.
Yep.
And you typically build a lot of EDC style, a lot of
Yeah. Smaller.
outdoor, yeah, a lot of
Yeah.
outdoor hunting style knives
Yeah.
for the outdoorsman. And so I
Yep.
think we see those features, implemented in your work. Take for example that Skinner you were just talking about. It's got a nice, very acute point.
Mm-hmm.
It got a little upswept tip to it. Perfect for skinning. You can process game with that very,
Yeah.
very easily.
Yep.
Which just is an interesting point. I don't like an upswept Skinner.
Oh,
I know
really?
you probably shouldn't
But
say that about your own design, but
I was fixing to say, I was like, well,
it's just not what I like as something that I would use on a regular basis. It's just not mine, but it fits the function. Makes sense.
right,
Yep. Okay.
right.
It's just a personal preference thing. I'm not a huge
So
fan
this knife was basically something you probably tracked and built for a customer and just kind of modified into
We
your.
actually the design came because we started out our production side started with the ranch hand, which was just a good EDC. Small I think 2.25, 2.5 inch blade. And we wanted to expand our production side. So we, sat down, had some conversations with some customers, some retailers that we were working with, and just, pick their brain. What would you use? I talked with a bunch of people that I know that are hunters and guides and different things like that. So, what would you need in the field? What's your preference? If I put something in your hand and you could do whatever you want to as far as the knife goes with it, what would you prefer? And so we took all that information, sat down, and that's how we came out with our field series. So, which has got four models in it, and one of those is a Skinner. But each one of those blades really has, three of them have a very kind of specific function. Ranch hand, like I said, is kind of an EDC, smaller. Of course, we do a scout carry sheath with them. So, that kind of that's the only really multi-purpose. I say that our Tomahawk's got a lot of, it's got a pry bar built into it and a spike and all that kind of stuff. But, tomahawk, like I said, you're not really designed. It's not designed to remove splinters. It's designed to make them, but not really get them out of your hand. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
So that's how those designs came about.
And about.
Yeah.
You had something you wanted to add to that, Don? Saw you raise your hand earlier.
Yeah, I was just going to ask. I was going to ask him about that tomahawk. Did you have that water jet?
We did. So, our productions. I'll try to give you the short answer. Our productions, what we do is we streamline our processes to keep to drive the overall cost down, so that we can pass that on to the end user. And so one of the ways that we do that is cutting out a lot of labor in the shop, and WaterJet does that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yes, sir.
When we started doing R&D design work on like things like the tomahawk, I was cutting them out on a bandsaw. I don't recommend that.
No, I seen that.
I got 2 of them cut out, and it took me like 6-7 hours.
That's quarter-inch steel, right? Quarter-inch.
3/16. Well, yeah, the
prototype.
The prototypes were quarter-inch. We shrunk that down to 3/16 on the product, but and we didn't feel like you needed that much for what it was designed for. So the 3/16 is plenty, and we actually put some weight reduction windows in it. But yeah, WaterJet was amazing. And, and the upside, and I'm gonna put a plug in for the guys at New Jersey Steel Bearing.
Good people.
One of the great people, and I've used them for years for blade steel, and then when we started going into these production runs, it was just a no-brainer, because we don't have to ship a plate of steel anywhere.
Yeah,
we send them our designs, and they send us our blinks cut out, and it's just. And we've got it designed where we come back and we pilot drill. They've got holes. Holes are spotted in there, and then we come back and drill them, and then tap them, and do all that kind of stuff in house. But man, you can't beat it. And what that allows us to do is produce a high quality knife at something that's not as expensive as a full custom.
Exactly.
And
so, it's not so labor intensive.
Yeah. Because drilling and grinding drilling the holes and then grinding profiles is probably takes more time about anything else.
Yeah, especially if you're working in batches. And
so, like I do a lot of batch of stuff, and then
that's why I said it.
Yeah.
And so
we get a little taste of that.
Yeah,
you enjoying it?
Oh yeah.
Well, I just started. Yeah,
that's
I
the
just
question.
started.
Are you enjoying it?
Yeah.
Well, it's a different world. We talk about we're talking about knife design. And I think it's one of those things that we need to talk about when we start talking about this topic. How many do you plan on building?
Mm-hmm.
And just because I like it doesn't mean somebody else is going to like it either.
Yeah.
What does the market allow? And we can get into all that stuff. But yeah, you find something good, and man, you want to make a bunch of them. It's just,
you
can wear yourself out on the bandsaw.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Because you're going to sit there and ask yourself, am I selling a lot of these? Are people requesting these? So there's a lot of things that, need to be answered in order for you to, push to that point where you start making these big batches. But going back to your stuff, Tip, so you've actually mentioned some design attributes that you like. And if you mentioned water jetting on the Tomahawk, some cutouts for weight reduction, which is, would be part of the knife design. You mentioned your ranch hands, which basically are like an EDC that have a clip. I think the ranch hand has a clip on the front of it.
One of them little shark fins on the back side of it, or whatever you call them. Harpoon style blade.
Yeah, harpoon point.
Yeah.
Or trailing. You have a trailing tip. You're talking about trail tip?
No, it's not a
No,
trailing tip. It's
You talking
it's
about
a
something like
harpoon.
that, or more rounded in like that?
No, that's trailing. That curved one you just can you show that template to the viewers? Yeah, so that's I would call that. Is
That's
that
your
the
clip
design?
point.
yeah.
Is
That's the
that
one.
mine,
Yeah,
Don?
sure, right there.
Okay, so yeah, that's
That's a
I thought
trailer. Is
so.
that a
Yeah,
clip
I
point?
would
Joey's
call
like,
that
that
a
looks familiar. I've
yeah.
seen that somewhere
That's
before.
got some me in it, but yeah, I would call that a
It's a pretty
trailing tip.
knife.
Yeah,
It's
Yeah.
pretty nice.
Well, you ought to see the real one. I
yeah.
don't. You ought to see the
I've
real
seen
one he
them.
did. No, the real one of that one that he
Oh,
made.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that Don made.
that
You got to go
Don
to my
actually made.
Instagram. Go to Don Watson Knives Instagram.
Don Watson Knives on Instagram. Everybody check it out. That knife
All right,
is.
I'm doing it
I'm
right now.
gonna get that knife one day. But so back to this your design tip. So what are some other attributes that you typically wouldn't not necessarily do in your production line, but like on customs? Customs I know are kind of subjective because you're taking the input of somebody that wants something in particular, but I know you got to put your little flair on it. So
Well,
what is?
my deal is, and again, it goes back to what's it being used for. One
Right.
of my favorite things to make though is pocket knives. I love making pocket knives.
Oh yeah.
I don't make as many as I would like to. But I was taught by Dwayne Duchesne, and he makes. If
Oh, yeah.
I think you need somebody in your life, in your
That's-
professional career, that just makes you feel like you really don't know what you're doing. And I look at Dwayne's stuff, and it's just like, I mean, he does sole authorships, and he's got he's making his own Damascus, and he's doing his own engraving. And before we moved out to Louisiana, I was told I couldn't ever touch his engraving machine again.
Uh-oh.
Tip, what I'm hearing
He sat me down,
is
he's like, "Here, try this," and I'm like, "Okay." And so here I went, and it was one of them GRS, it's got the magnifier and all this kind of stuff.
yeah.
And I just felt like I was at NASA in the space shuttle, and I'm sitting there, and I got halfway through a letter J and broke the engravers. So
Oh man.
I was told I couldn't touch it anymore. So now that's been 15 years ago, and I still haven't touched it. So, it's, so, and when I first discovered, we talked a few episodes back about when we got, where we came on our knife making journey. When I first discovered the custom knife world, man, gentlemen's folders were just like everywhere, and it just enamored me, and I see people like Johnny Stout and Peter Carey, you get into the tactical side of it, and Alan Leishwitz and all these different. Jeremy Marsh makes some of the coolest knives on the planet, in my opinion. Jim Burt, all these different guys, but then you get into the slip joint side of it, which I've made my third one, and God help the people that carry them. But you start looking at like Stanley Busick and these other guys, and my brain's shutting off is about, but just the embellishments, the engraving. I love to carve titanium, and my issue right now with doing like frame locks and carving the titanium is finding the time.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things that propelled the production side, where I can do have the water jet and all that kind of stuff. That it frees up a little bit of my time to start doing, I don't want to say higher end side of things, but just the more embellished, the file work. I love doing file work.
Nice work, buddy, too. You do great work.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Absolutely beautiful.
I enjoy doing that stuff, and that's my quiet time too. I'll get in there and you can get zoned in. I'll put my earbuds in, be listening, anything from, worship music to classical country, to jazz. Every once in a while, there's some classic rock and some Metallica thrown in there too. Try not to listen to that much anymore, but it's there. My playlists are like bipolar. It's weird, but
oh no,
you get in there and you know how music is.
Oh
You
yeah,
get in a certain,
it
you get in a
moves you.
zone,
Yep.
and but I think really that's where the creativity comes in.
Yep.
You get in there and you sit down with there's something about sitting down with a piece of metal. And I heard Todd Begg say it one time, another great, phenomenal knife maker. He said, in every piece of metal, in every piece of blade steel, there's a knife hiding, and I have to find it.
Yep.
And I thought that was just a really cool and
That is.
really cool
That is.
statement. And I thought, yeah, I can do that,
Very cool.
Now, my work's not near where his or really anybody that I mentioned, it's not where they're at, but that's where I'm at when it comes to, other than just the functionality of it. Then you start getting into the form. Form follows function, but we still love form. I want it to look nice, because I've seen people make knives and they're highly functional, but they're ugly. Is that too harsh?
Well, I mean,
Well,
I'm not going to say there hadn't been any ugly knives, because I mean, there probably has been
made
ugly
some
knives.
ugly knives.
Yeah, I was fixing. That's okay. You took my line.
Apparently, there's one that I shared with a couple friends of mine this week that they think is questionable.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say who they are. I've got a couple guys that I'm on a group text with, and I'm not going to mention their names. Their initials are Don Watson and J.W. Terrio, but I sent them a picture of a new design this week, and I got some very questionable responses back on this particular design. And so I was going to show it, on the video tonight, but now I'm not going to, because they made fun.
Show it.
Oh, absolutely not.
Show it.
Bunch of
Come on.
bums.
Look, once you explained the function behind it, I was like, okay, I get it. I get it.
So, yeah, and then I didn't do the firework. That's what it kills me. So this is the design.
Oh, yeah.
This is the design we're talking about.
There
And
it is.
I think what the issue was, we just pulled these out of heat treats, so I haven't cleaned them up. The issue that I think everybody was having was that little thing right there.
Like,
So
what is that?
this was actually a mistake. This is how my design work goes. So this was a mistake when I was drawing. I had a little, and I thought, man, that looks cool. So I drew it out and cut one out of some G10, some scrap G10 I have. And I thought, man, that looks, I think it just, it added something. And my plan was to do file work just on this part of the spine here. And then roll the remainder. This is for a special project for some ministers that are coming in town next week. And that's what we're going to be giving to them in their gift bag when they get here. They don't know that, so hopefully they don't watch the podcast.
They don't listen to the podcast.
I'm pretty sure they don't, but
probably not.
Well,
yeah, it's just a little EDC, and I'm going to build some slip sheaths for them. Something that they can carry if they wear suits a lot, so it's something thin. Our handle material is going to be less than 1/8 of an inch thick on that, so it's just something simple. And if I can get to it, I'm going to try to nitro blue them over the weekend, see if I can get that done. So I've never done that before. So it's nothing like waiting until the last minute on a project and then
of course
doing a bunch of stuff,
implementing all kind of new knife design implements.
And rush it out.
Typical knife maker.
So Don, same question to you, brother. So typically, what attributes do you typically? I look at your work on Instagram, and I see a lot of outdoorsman inspiration in your knives and a lot of utilitarian aspects. So what are the attributes that you would say you typically like to implement when you're drawing and designing knives?
Well, I've always been a drawer, not very good at it, but I always kept a book and that by my chair. If I'm watching TV, if I watch TV or whatever, if I see something, maybe something hits me, and you get a lot, because I'm from the wood turning world, so shape is very important when you're doing the bowls and the hollow forms and all that. So I mean, all that has to play in that. But I think really for blade design, like you said, form versus function. Like this one right here, I got this idea. Well, a lot of people make this style of knife. It's kind of like a fighter style. Joey, I got this inspiration from you and some other makers. This one right here is one that I got that I drew out. It's kind of I guess a bird and trout style knife. It's got a thinner blade,
Yeah, I like it too.
But and then Joey, you designed this one and you kind of put it out to the guys to make this knife on the podcast last year, I think it was, and I went ahead and you drew it out on knife print. You did a good job. Did a great job, and I got a chance to make one of these blades.
And that is a beautiful blade, by the way. Beautiful.
Thanks, bud.
It's absolutely stunning.
Appreciate it, man.
Stunning.
And then of course you want to make something bigger. I made a couple of these and gave them to the son-in-laws. Yeah, they kind of
I like that. It's got a little. Looks like, is that a little recurve?
It's got a little recurve. It's got a little recurve belly in this way.
Yep.
You can see a little more recurve.
Yeah, you got a nice big belly in the front. That's a good. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what would that be used for, Don?
Well, this right here, I designed this, and it's kind of like a kukri style, but not as far bent like a kukri. But my son-in-law, when they moved in their new house, he was cleaning it all up, and I made one, and I made two of them. So when I went ahead and made one, I said, now I want you, it's 8670, I said, I want you to go out and I want you to beat this thing, man. So he went out and, the old vines around the old trees and oak trees, they have a lot of vines and a lot of the old grapevine stuff. So he used it, man. He loves
like a bushcraft,
like a bush,
blade,
like a bush hog type, just something out there beating. And
good camp knife.
Camp knife if you want to use camp knife. But my design has always been towards using, whether it's a hunting knife, a fillet knife, skinning knife, something you can use in the field. Not something that I make knives. I started making my knives because that's something I used when I hunted and I fished.
Yeah.
Design, like you said, form versus function. You can have a really cool looking knife and not function very well at all.
Right.
I mean, you can have a nice, beautiful art piece, but it's not really made. I found out too, when you make a knife that's really pretty, really nice, a lot of people will not use them in the field.
Yeah. I'm learning that.
Yeah. And a lot of times people won't buy them because I had one guy said, I would love to buy your knife, but that looks too nice. I wouldn't use it. I said, why not? He goes, well, because it's too nice. I said, well, and I don't think my knives are, as far as beautiful handles, stuff like that. I mean, of course I would not put thanks, brother. I wouldn't go and put a nice burl handle on this knife. I just wouldn't.
No.
You do some micarta or G10?
Yeah, micarta G10 is really nice on this. Maybe a rock texture or whatever. Or you can do a paracord. This one here, that one I made for you, Joey. I had to go ahead and put some buckeye burl.
He purdied it up. Yeah, he purdied that one up. That was a beautiful blade.
But when I go to design a knife, I'm always my background is hunting and fishing, so I kind of tend to go that route,
I do too. Typically, my knives are either EDC or a hunting style blade.
Mm-hmm.
Typically in a hunting blade, I like to have that trailing clip with a little slight recurve in the blade. Nothing major, just a slight recurve.
Something like that, except I don't have the trailing in it, but something like that right there.
Yep.
The thing, and what if I may, Joe, one of the things I notice and I love about your design work is the symmetry and the flow of it. It really does. It flows, and there's I think there's I don't want to sound too weird on this, but to me, when something it flows like that, it's just it fits into the creation of mankind, just the way our hands work and the way our arms work. And so what we see a lot of times, in my opinion, and that's it, is, how we see things that fit and that look well, they actually function well. And that's one of the things that I love about your design work, and your blades, is they are functional knives, but they just flow. And I can look at a knife and say, that's Joey's,
It's
I
curvy.
appreciate it.
And
It's very curvy.
and that's the whole point, in our industry. You want to be able to look at somebody's work and say, I know who that is.
Yep.
I mean, it sticks out. Of course, everybody, it's like Don said, everybody makes a good trailing point at some point in time, but out of all of the trailing point knives you see, like, oh, I know who designed that. But
I appreciate
that's one, like I said, I love that about yours, and that, just clean. And I won't mention what, I called you the first conversation we had on the phone, and you start talking about knife print. I mean, if you want to share that, I apologized for it. I mean,
yeah. So typically, knife print is a tool that I actually use to help design. And I've used it for a while now. I found it early on in my knife making career, and before that, I was using NanoCAD. And knife print is just it kind of just displays everything two-dimensional, so it's real easy. All the tools on there are easy to use. But so I was telling Tippy, hey, he called me up one day. He's like, hey, what are you doing? I was like, I'm just sitting down, just messing around with some knife designs. And he's like, oh yeah, and he could hear me clicking the computer. He's like, what are you doing? Like I was like, he was like, I said, well, I told you I'm messing around with some knife design. He's like, on like CAD? I was like, well, it's kind of like, it is a CAD program, but it's called knife print. He's like, oh, you doing it on the computer? He's like, I was like, yeah, why? He's like, nerd.
That's Tippy.
So, but so I've
Still
always
love you.
used. Oh yeah, man. Hey, got nothing but love for you, brother.
So glad.
So, so that is a tool that, if the listeners want to check it out, knifeprint.com.
Yeah.
You can get a free version or you can pay for it.
Yeah,
I'll let them make that decision.
do it, because that's one more thing I'd have to learn how to use. And
it's not too hard. It's a good. It'll convert your designs into a .dxf, which is used to waterjet. So you can send them to New Jersey, you have them waterjet, or Knife Print offers waterjet services. So
okay,
you can actually send them a drawing
directly.
Not to interrupt you, but you can send them a drawing, and I'm sure there's other companies, but I know for a fact, and they do a good job, because I've done it. I've sent them, our ranch hands were done that way. I sent them a hand drawing on a piece of graph paper, and they sent it back, and you go back and forth, and they nailed it. So, in fact, we still use that design if we're getting ranch hands cut. So
that's the file they use.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
That's it. And they did that for us. I mean, it's just amazing. So I guess they're a bunch of nerds.
So you said Knife Print did this? Knife Print did it for you, or
no? New Jersey Steel.
Oh, I'm sorry, New Jersey Steel. I misunderstood.
So, I drew something out by hand and sent it to them, and they made it out.
Oh, well, that's good to know. I mean, hey, if the listeners, if you're hearing this, if you want to, draw something on a piece of paper, on graph paper, and send it to New Jersey, they'll convert it for you.
That's probably what I'll have. That's what I'll have to do.
You got to pay for the CAD work.
But yeah. I'm sure there's a cost. Everything costs. So Brother Don,
I think the main thing because I have pretty good sized hands, but I was taught when I started making knives by Andy Roy. He kind of helped me along, and he told me, whatever you do, make a knife handle that will fit anybody's hand. He said, don't make small. I mean, if you got an 8-inch knife, the handle has got to be bigger than 3 inch. He says,
Yeah.
you got to
4.5
make
inches
where it fits. He said, and I told him my hand's pretty big. He goes, well, just make sure. He said, just make sure it'll fit anybody's hand. You'll be right. And so that's the reason why I make a lot of handles the way I do. And then once you get a handle that fits, if it fit my hand, it'll fit most people's hands. So that's the number one thing there, because I know a lot of guys that have told me that they made knives but their handles, were too small for people, and they didn't like them. So make sure you keep.
I got a question for you guys.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, you were talking about handle design, different things like that. Have y'all ever, and this is just curiosity on my part, I guess, taken that handle, a specific handle design, and changed the blade shape to make a different knife than what you did on the original design?
Oh, yes.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Yep.
absolutely. Yep, sure do.
You don't feel guilty about that at all?
No, I do not.
No.
It's my handle design.
Yeah. Well, I mean, as far I'm
Like
I
I've
didn't
taken-
sleep a whole lot last
Yeah.
night, so
So I've got, you guys all know it, the Fat Boy.
Oh, yeah.
Call it this model of Fat Boy. So
That's
just
right.
recently, I think I showed Tip is, I've taken the same blade,
Yep.
but I put a different
Yeah.
handle on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And he told me it sucked. And he
Oh,
like,
okay.
no,
that is
I'm just
not
picking.
the words I used in my defense.
Yeah. But yeah,
It's not the
He
words I used.
he did not say that. He didn't say
No.
that. That was me just picking on him.
Now
But,
I just brought a few templates, and I got a box full of templates, man, a big box.
Yeah.
And I use MDF, 1/4 inch MDF to cut them out and grind. It just makes it easier. I know a lot of guys use plastic. They can use steel. They can use micarta, all that. But
I use G10.
Yeah, I
yeah,
had
use
some
G10.
I had when I
1/8
was
inch
in the
G10.
machining industry. I had a customer, and they used G10 to make gaskets for oil field stuff, and they would use a big, huge punch, and it would leave a bunch of scrap, and they were just throwing it in the dumpster.
Oh.
So I went and asked them one day. I said, "Hey, can I have your trash?" And they're like,
Can I have
"Man,
your
you want
trash?
some more?" And they filled up the truck, the bed of my truck with
I'll tell you
scrap
what,
G10,
Tip,
and I've still got. I gave some to Joey. I'm like, "Here, take some of this."
I'm glad you went dumpster diving because
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
because it helped me. I make all my templates out of it now. So
The hard part is getting back out of the dumpster.
Yeah,
I'm fat, so it's difficult. So
I did this buoy. I've been wanting to make a coffin handle buoy now. So I made all my little pieces, my guard, the handle, the spacer. So I made all my pieces out of it, to, just to have a template. So
yeah,
The last longer too.
I'm wanting to get my hands on that design too.
well, I'll make. I mean, I can make you another copy of this easy.
FYI.
Easily. But no, so that, those are some of the design attributes that we've gone over from you, Tip, from you, Don. Of course, myself, I mentioned how I use knife print as a tool to help me design. But so that's one of those things. It can be always, kind of a personal preference, but going back to what Tippy said, form and function should always be at the forefront of you. To me, when you're sitting down to design, it needs to be, it needs to function as its intended purpose. It can still function for its intended purpose while looking pretty. When you agree.
Yep.
Absolutely. Well, and I think one thing we can add to that is just because I think it looks good doesn't necessarily have to mean everybody else thinks it looks good.
Yep.
Right. Everybody's got different tastes, and
exactly.
That's the reason why I haven't had New Jersey steel bearing water jet any of my knives, because, man, as a new knife maker for myself, I'd hate to call them, say, I need 25 of these blades right here, and that, but I'm still trying to find my own on that,
yeah. No, I follow you. You get them do 25 blank. Look, I got some blanks that I had a local shop jet for me, and I've sold a couple of the one design and a couple of the other design, but I don't think they're not really hot items that I sell a lot of.
Yeah.
So, no, and I can understand your hesitation in that, Don.
Yeah.
You don't want to, jet out 25 of them and then they just, they sit there because nobody likes them.
Exactly.
Or everyone thinks, they're ugly, like Tip was saying. And oh man, that's ugly. Nah. And that
I've seen
happens.
some ugly knives, though. I mean, I've made some ugly knives.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
I know I've made ugly knives.
Oh yeah.
We look at guys' Instagrams and we're like, man, all they do is pretty stuff. You don't see all the stuff that either didn't make it because the handle was too short or the blade was cross-eyed or whatever it was. Our social media, I think, has destroyed this society in so many ways, and even in the knife community, we only see the best. Very rarely do you see anybody. Now you see a couple stupid people that lose blades in their quench oil and then post a video about it, but thank God for magnets and long-handled tongs.
Amen.
That's all I got to say.
Right?
But we see all the best of everything, and I think that's good, and I think there's nothing wrong with that. But I think we've all done it. But somewhere, on this planet, there's somebody that looks at Don Watson's knives and is like, man, those are the greatest things ever. And there's somebody maybe 2 blocks over says, man, those are the ugliest things I've ever laid eyes on.
Yep.
But that doesn't negate the quality of knife that Don puts out. It's a great knife. There are people that love his work, and rightfully so. And the same with Joey, and the same with every other knife maker. The blade design, it's such a broad and a finite topic all at the same time. I think that's really, and you find your customer base, you find your I guess fan base would be a good way of putting it. And there's knives that I love to just look at. It's like, and I would never use like what's her name? Is it Delana? She does art pieces, pocket knives.
Oh, yeah.
Unbelievable stuff. Like melted gold. It just baffles my mind how somebody can do something like that. But I don't know. I've never handled one. I'd be afraid to move it if I saw one in person. But just because I wouldn't want to hurt it. But
or drop it.
Yeah, because I'm a klutz. But just amazing, beautiful. And I've met people that don't like it, but I've met a lot of people that don't like my stuff, and that's okay. You find what you like and you run with it, and celebrate our differences. I mean, that's what it all boils down to me.
Well, there's 340 million people in the United States. You'll find someone to like it.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I hope so, because this is what I do for a living. So,
amen.
I've been sitting on, knives for a while now, and it's just one of those things where the right person needs to come along and see it and get it. But that was well said, Tip. And
big time.
we're approaching on 51 minutes here, so we'll start winding this down. And I just want to mention to all our listeners to go out and check our friends out over at ameribraid.com.
Yeah, absolutely.
Amen.
Yeah, they're giving a 20% discount to our listeners on all their accessories for the grinders.
Right. That's right.
And so if you've been eyeing that surface grinder attachment, but you've been hesitant to buy it because they only have 2-inch tooling arms, that's not true. They do offer 1.5-inch arms, so go check them out.
On all their accessories. Well, I think most of their accessories.
I think Kevin mentioned they did, but check them out, give them a check, and when you pop that baby in the cart, don't forget to put in. Is it the
Crafted
Edge?
It's called Crafted Edge 20. Yep.
Crafted Edge 20. I'm sorry.
That's
Crafted Edge 20. Crafted
Yeah.
Edge 20. Go check it out. Give it a look.
Yeah,
And
we appreciate the guys over at Marybray doing that
Yeah, we
for
do.
us. That's huge.
absolutely.
So,
Yep.
Big
So
time.
go check our friends out
Yeah.
over there, Eric and Kevin. Great guys, super nice guys.
absolutely.
Well, guys, I think we'll go ahead and close this out. And we've talked a little bit about knife design. I will say one more on a leaving note. Typically, I know I let you guys kind of brush on what your thoughts are on it. I'll just throw this in there. As for me, typically when I'm designing, for me, my eyes, when I'm looking at flow, like Jason was mentioning, typically I like a lot of curves. I like curves because, there's no straight lines on the human body at all. And there's no straight lines in nature that you'll ever see. And so typically I like to have curves and whatnot in my design process and thought process. And that's kind of where I fall with it. So in that, I guess we'll see y'all next time, everybody.
Yay.
We appreciate y'all following us, liking us. Give us a like, share, and a follow. And we'll catch y'all next time on the Crafted Edge podcast.
See you
care,
guys.
guys.
Have a great week.